Have you ever read a book that's just so wonderfully weird it feels like a puzzle, but you're missing the key piece? Well, that is the exact feeling Julio Cortázar gives us with his cronopios and famas. But what if I told you that the key to this 20th century Argentine mystery is actually hidden in the teachings of a Chinese sage from 2,500 years ago? Yeah, today we're going to connect these two worlds, and in doing so, unlock a message about how we live that is absolutely timeless. All right, let's just dive right in. The whole puzzle of Cortázar's 1962 book, Historias de Cronopios y de Famas, kicks off from the very first page. He throws these bizarre characters at us, but he never really explains who or even what they are. I mean it, he just drops these names, Cronopios, Famas, and there's a third group, Esperanzas, and just kind of assumes we're already in on the secret. He wants us to figure them out, not by giving us definitions, but by watching what they do. And that's where things start to get really, really interesting. So we start getting these little clues, these little snapshots of behavior. For example, a cronopio finds a flower. What does it do? It doesn't pick it, doesn't try to own it, it just plays with it. It enjoys the moment, connects with this little piece of nature, and then walks away, leaving it just as it was, but feeling better for the experience. Now, get ready for the complete opposite. Here comes a fauna. It sees a beautiful tree, and its very first instinct is to control it, to possess it. It can't just admire the eucalyptus, it has to have it, even if that means chopping it down and destroying the very beauty it was drawn to in the first place. The cronopios are described in these wonderfully weird terms as green and humid beings. You know, they're the impulsive artists of the world, a little clumsy, incredibly generous, and almost always misunderstood by everyone else who's trying to live by the rules. They're basically a living, breathing rejection of routine. So, how do we make any sense of this? Well, the key to Cortázar's little literary riddle isn't hidden in some other modern novel. Nope, it's tucked away in a text from ancient China, written way back around the 6th century BCE. You see, Cortázar was a huge fan of Eastern philosophy. And while he never explicitly said, hey, this book is about Taoism, his work is just soaking in its ideas. He used these ancient philosophies to dig into some very real, very human problems. Things like social pressure, the search for who we really are, and the traps we set for ourselves with our daily routines. Just think about this for a second. We have two completely different works, separated by more than 2,000 years and thousands of miles. One's an ancient philosophical guide. The other is this collection of surreal, modern short stories. And yet, they're having the exact same conversation about what it means to be human. So, to really get this connection, we have to talk about the Tao. The Tao Te Ching, the book written by the sage Lao Tzu, isn't a rule book. It's not a list of commandments. Think of it more as a guide to living in sync with the natural flow of the universe, what he called the way. It's all about letting go, embracing simplicity, and finding wisdom in what feels natural and effortless.
Okay, and here is where it gets really cool. Cortázar's characters seem to perfectly embody the two main archetypes of Taoist thought. This isn't just a coincidence, it feels like a direct philosophical parallel. So, on the surface, the battle lines are pretty clear, right? The cronopio is the free-spirited, chaotic artist, and the fama is the anxious, rigid organizer who needs every single thing in its proper place. One lives completely in the moment, the other lives by a strict schedule. And what this mirrors, just brilliantly, is a much, much older duel, the Taoist sage versus the worldly ruler. The sage finds wisdom in keeping things simple and moving in harmony with nature. The ruler, on the other hand, wants power, imposes order, and is just obsessed with control and rules. Sound familiar?
Now, a really important idea for understanding the Sahe and the cronopio is this concept of wu-wei. It translates to something like effortless action. The best way to think about it is like watching a child play, just for the pure joy of it, or how a stream flows around rocks without fighting them. It's action without force, without struggle, without anxiety, and that is the very heart of the cronopio.
When you put their behavior side by side, the parallels are just undeniable. Take possessions. The cronopio doesn't need to store memories, it just lives them. The fama is obsessed with order, organizing everything. Or their actions. The cronopio is pure impulse, while the fama is all about procedure and efficiency. This means the cronopio's wisdom is this deep, intuitive thing, even if it looks clumsy. The fama's wisdom is really just a show of power. I mean, in one story, a fama makes fun of a slow turtle because it only values speed. But what does the cronopio do?
It feels compassion, and it draws a little bird on the turtle's shell to help it dream of flying. Cortázar actually writes that for the Cronopio, life is a continuous ordering, not something you have to box up and file away. This is a perfect reflection of the Taoist idea of non-attachment, living freely, not being chained to your past or freaking out about the future. And then, listen to this from the Tao Te Ching. Create without possessing, contain without controlling. That is the #1 virtue of the Taoist sage. It's also a perfect description of the Cronopio playing with that flower, creating a moment of joy without needing anything in return. The farmer, though, he is the classic worldly ruler. In one story, a rich farmer completely humiliates his maid over something as silly as handkerchiefs, not because the handkerchiefs matter, but purely to show that he's in charge, that he has control. And this is exactly what Lao Tzu warned about. This constant desire for more power, more things, more control. That's where our anxiety comes from. As the scholar Honorio Ferrero puts it, happiness is not found in obtaining, but in being. The Fama is always trying to obtain, while the Cronopio is perfectly happy just being.
So here's the big takeaway. This isn't just some fun literary theory. What we have here with Cortázar and Lao Tzu are two thinkers from across the centuries describing two fundamental, timeless ways of getting through life.
The Fama, well, that's the voice in all of our heads, right? The one telling us to be more productive, to stay in control, to follow the rules, to get ahead. It's the pressure of modern life personified. But the Cronopio shows us there's another way, a path of just being yourself, of embracing a little bit of chaos, and of finding real joy in the simple, messy, beautiful stuff of just being alive. So both Cortázar, with his playful, surreal stories, and Lao Tzu, with his deep, paradoxical wisdom, are really nudging us to do the same thing, to question the rigid boxes we build around our lives. They want us to find meaning not in rules and stuff, but in dreams, in spontaneous moments of joy, and in getting back in touch with our most natural, intuitive selves. And all of this brings us to the final, and I think most important question that both of these incredible thinkers leave for us to answer. Let's be honest, we live in a world that pretty much worships the Fama. It rewards order, efficiency, ambition. But Cortázar and Lao Tzu are here to remind us that there's another part of ourselves, maybe a wiser part, our inner Cronopio. So the next time you feel that pressure building, the pressure to organize and control and achieve, maybe just take a second, find a flower, and for just a minute, don't pick it, just play.